Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wow, this is a wonderful sight from where I'm standing. Thank you so much for coming out to our VIP speaker series. On behalf of the First Year Success Center, I've got to tell you that I'm incredibly glad to see your faces. We believe at the First Year Success Center that the right person at the right time can change a life, and I guarantee you that you are in the right place to have your life changed for this next hour. It is really an honor and a pleasure to introduce this speaker that we have with us today, Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch, veteran, author, motivational speaker, first-generation student, servant leader, human rights activist, Latina powerhouse are just a few of the descriptions and titles that describe our esteemed keynote speaker today. Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch is a renowned, charismatic, and influential speaker with a mission to empower the next generation of leaders. Throughout her career, Consuelo has shared her personal knowledge on becoming an effective leader in today's global marketplace with hundreds of schools, colleges, universities, corporations, and government institutions, both in the United States and abroad. Born and raised along the border in a small barrio in Laredo, Texas, Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch is all too familiar with the challenges of poverty, discrimination, and illiteracy. Although she grew up without material wealth, Consuelo was taught by her immigrant parents that she was rich in culture, tradition, values, and faith. Values Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch learned as a child were reinforced throughout her career in the United States Army, where she broke barriers and set records in the military, and where she became the highest-ranking Hispanic woman in the combat support field of the United States Army. When the opportunity arose to assume a command post, Consuelo shocked the military by deciding to retire. She chose instead to honor her mother's dying wish for her to return to her roots and become a community leader. In 1996, Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch founded the human development company Educational Achievement Services to fulfill her mission of preparing tomorrow's leaders. Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch's dedication to the youth of America has garnered her numerous awards and citations from educational institutions, government agencies, professional organizations, and the national media. She has been profiled on numerous media outlets and shared her message through CDs and books, a book titled Journey to the Future, A Roadmap for Success for Youth, which provides practical techniques for children to develop higher self-esteem and achieve personal goals. Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch has literally spoken to and impacted millions of people all over the world. Amidst her countless achievements and titles, what has impressed me as her friend and as her mentee over the last 2 decades is her integrity, her life-affirming, life-changing wisdom that she imparts from a humble and well-lived but extraordinary life. What I'm impressed by is her relentless passion for humanity, the extraordinary capacity of her heart to love on and to serve so many people, selfishly, decade after decade, and to embody the very best in our humanity, to live and truly walk out daily a life of profound impact and meaning for which millions have benefited. Please help me giving her her due honor and stand to your feet in applause for our guest, Consuelo Castillo Kickbusch.
Thank you, Mama. Oh, sit down. When people make such a fuss over me, I'm reminded by my mother, siéntate, apacíguate. Well, Stephen, I'm going to honor you by trying to turn on this thing. It says, oh, I'm on, I'm alive. Buenas tardes. Can you hear me in the back? Perfect. To stand here, I still get the feedback though, right? Would it be better for me to stand there, Mija? I think you're good now. Okay. Okay. I can switch, because that sounds like I have a hearing problem. We'll do that. All right. Gracias, hija. No problem. To be standing here today at such a prestigious educational institution, I think back to when I first went to college. But before I tell that story, Maricel, hija, es un verdadero honor ver tu crecimiento, tu deseo de ser humana con todo el mundo. It has been my blessing to see your growth, your journey, and your love to still today serve humanity. To be standing among you, the greatest minds that will shape the world that perhaps I will not get to see, but that I know in my heart, I pray that my words, you will own them, that you will carry that legacy of what it is to serve others. To my fellow veteran brothers, if you are here today, this afternoon, I kindly ask that you stand and let a grateful nation thank you for your service. Any of my veteranos, there they are. Welcome home. Thank you. Thank you. To the many wonderful young minds at the Success Center, I tried my best to remember your names. There's Katie with an I-E, right? Yes. There are so many of you that I got to know and meet. And so I'm grateful. You fed my husband and I was able to share with you a little bit of what the world looks like as I walk the streets around the world. I think about, yes, oh, now I have this thing.
It's hard to see you.
Okay, I'm dangerous now. As I go across the world, and mostly I devote my life to empowering communities, especially in our beloved nation, I think about what have I learned along the way. And so I start from that beginning moment when I went away to college. The truth is that I want to get as close as I can to you. Can you see me? Thank you. I think about being born and raised en el Rincón del Diablo. I come from a place, a neighborhood, back then was the poorest city in the United States. And it bothered me that we were known for those things. We were known because we were the heroin corridor to the world. That the only shiny, nice-looking cars were of the drug dealers coming into my community to exploit us, to condemn us. I think about all of the suffering that went on in my little village and feeling helpless at times, wanting to make a difference. I didn't know that my language would be the first demon I had to conquer, that my not speaking English would put me into a dark world while I went to school. I loved school. I didn't think it would not love me back. I remember that my father, that immigrant from Monterrey, Nuevo León, who would take me across, back and forth, And I remember him telling me to never forget that I was the American dream. Tú eres el sueño americano. And I thought, wow, that must be awesome. I didn't know. I was young, too young to comprehend that his sacrifice, my mother's sacrifice, their journey, and what they did to live with so little, but yet did so much. So on the screen, you will see my first teachers. There's my mommy and my papi. So I always like to give them my respects. Jefita, gracias. Aunque usted y yo, pues no nos entendimos a veces. I love you, Mom, even though you and I, we didn't always get along. Papi, mi líder, mi héroe, mi maestro, my hero, and my teacher. I miss you, old man. Thank you for teaching me to love Mom. Yes, I had to learn that several times. But I love you both. May you both rest in peace. What do I mean by that? The struggles between mothers and daughters. Understand there might be a program here that is trying to enrich the lives of mothers and daughters. And growing up the way I did, I didn't understand so many things, but yet I was the most curious kid in the whole village. Have you ever been one of those kids? How many of you are willing to admit that you were the why kid? Your parents will tell you, and you would go, and why? And they say, because it's important for you. Why? And about the 10th why, they would just say, because. And still, as you were running away, go, you still didn't tell me why. Right? I was that kid. I was curious, but I didn't understand what could be the issue with my teachers and me and my curiosity. And later I learned that I could have possibly even had ADD. And I didn't understand all these labels, LEP, ELL, at risk, economically disadvantaged. I was like, oh my God. So when a teacher addressed me, I said, which one you talking to? Because I have so many for you to pick from. I'm that special. But you know, when I didn't know what I didn't know, which is why I devote my life today to living a legacy of opening minds and hopefully touching hearts for people to look at people for who they are. Not for what they have, who they know, but who they are as individuals. So growing up, I'm thinking, well, I'm the American dream. My father said so. I'm sure that my teacher got the memo. Right? So when I speak about social justice and why today I'm still very much an activist, I remember 6 years old. I'm in school, yo no entiendo inglés. The only word I knew in English was okay. I still today, that's my getaway word, okay. Right? But I knew a girl named Ida. And Ida was neither English or Spanish proficient. She was what I call Spanglish. But Ida was my window through the world to see, to hear, to learn, because I lived in darkness. When they spoke this other beautiful language, I didn't know, I didn't understand. But Ida and I had to negotiate, right? So I didn't know what to do. I said, and I'm a street kid, right? Coming from the barrios. I just shared with you where I'm from. So I went up to Ida. And she didn't understand I was going to hustle. I said, órale, you speak English? And she goes, yes, I do. Y yo le dije, órale, pues, tú me ayudas. She goes, what? Help you? I said, yeah. And she said, well, what are you going to give me? And that's when the hustle took place, right? I said, mira, what do you have in there in that ugly-looking box? See, you start off with negative psychology, right? Right? You know what I mean? You start messing with people. And she goes, oh, it's not ugly. It's my pink lunchbox. Dije, está feo. She said, why are you so mean? Le dije, no. Okay. She opened her lunchbox. She took out this white bread with something called ham. And I was like, wow, that's really bad stuff. We do horrible. She goes, what? You're just so mean. I said, no, mira, I have something better for you, mejor. She goes, you do? What do you have? See, that's the curiosity, that's the hustle. So she opened her brown bag. I opened my little brown bag that my mommy had recycled. And, we were into recycling. You're a little slow, but you're catching on. Okay, we are the founders of so many things in my barrio. You have no idea, okay? First of all, we put cardboard in our shoes. Dr. Schultz owes us royalties. Come on, let's get real, right? I didn't know that I ate from the ground. Now they call it Whole Foods. What's up with that? My mother would cure us with her herbs or hierbas. Now it's called alternative holistic healing. And doesn't that sound like fufu? Right? Come on, IKEA had no idea. We created the multi-purpose room. Come on, let's get real. Right? When you live in 2 rooms, you got 10 people. Man, IKEA's got nothing. And we're the originators of the container store. Except that we use butter. Right? And so I think about the innovation and the creativity, but, you are the leaders of tomorrow. And what do I mean by this story? Is how you see yourself is what determines how far you go. And I want you to see yourself wherever you come from, whatever you've had to deal with, okay? It doesn't determine how the story ends. It's just a chapter in your life. Because if you went by what they saw when I was 6, ADD, I had a mom with mental illness, their combined income was $400 a month, and the list goes on. Then somebody would have predicted, this is a research university, that kid is never going to make it. Just write her off. Statistically, that would have been perhaps accurate. But I'm not a number. I have a name, and so do you. So I ask you today to step into who you are and embrace all of who you are. But I went to school, and Ida, remember the brown bag? Finally, Ida got to the moment of the hustle. She said, so what's in it? And I took out a papas con huevo taco. I know, Taco Bell owes us money too. They all owe us money, right? And she ate the whole papa con huevo taco, and now they call it quality control. And there went my entire meal for the day. And I said, ahora sí. And she said, that was delicious. Y le dije, there went my meal. And then she said, okay, yo te ayudo, I help you. But mañana, I go, what about mañana? What about tomorrow? She goes, 2 tacos. She had a bigger hustle than I did. Right? Well, today she retired as a bilingual ed teacher after 40 years of teaching, and I jokingly say that she's still a member of Weight Watchers, thanks to me. Because she said, do you really say that all over the world? I go, yeah, I give you credit. She said, you are horrible. But in other words, one of the greatest secrets to life is to have a sense of humor. Laugh at yourself, laugh with others, but never laugh at people. Laugh with life, I've had so many funny experiences in my lecture series that I would have you literally thinking I'm a comedian. But I'm here as well to give you some serious words about legacy and leadership. But I get to school, and I realize that I'm learning English, not fast enough, And my teacher says the magical moment of my life. She said, class, I look at Aida. Today you're going to show me you have been learning your letters. You're going to write your name on the board. Dije, a la fregada. Dije yo, ¿qué dijo la doña? And all Aida could tell me was this. Nombre. Ah, mi nombre. Okay. So, you know, in my culture, there is God, there's your parents, and guess who's third? The teacher. That's how much power they have. So I'm waiting for my teacher, and my teacher says my name. I didn't even let the poor woman finish. Presente, maestra, para servirle. And I run up to her, and I'm just thinking I hit the lottery. And she's not impressed. And she said, young lady, now you're going to look at me right now. And immediately I acted out of my norms. And as a Mexicana, Chicana, all I could think is, oh, she's not happy, so I'm going to cast my eyes down. And so she grabbed me by the jaw. And she said, from now on, you will look at me. And today, you're going to learn the first lesson of your life. Your name now is Connie. Dije, ¿cómo? No. Dije, yo no conozco ninguna Connie. And I walked away from her. You don't do that to a teacher. And not when you're 6 years old. Well, needless to say, she wasn't impressed. She grabbed me by the arm. She took me to her desk. And she started to write this long, long note to the principal. And she went on and on and on, and she was on and on and on. And then she did this. And then she grabbed the stapler, and she went click, 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 like if I could read. I have handled multi-billion-dollar, highest classified clearances in the world. I've never had that kind of high-level security. Most of my government has trusted me. Okay, and I've been on some really crazy stuff. Let's just leave it at that. Okay? And so immediately I began to sense a disconnect, that my teacher didn't care. She didn't understand. And that's why I'm so honored and feel so blessed to be here with your success program, your first generation program, because you are truly the freedom fighters. You are those silent heroes that listen intuitively, purposely, insightfully, and with dignity. So every student that has a need, a question, or feels some pain. And so you, the coaches, and what you've done here at Arizona State is make the world better. Give yourselves a big hand. You've made it better. Because I don't know. Well, I was sent to the principal's office, okay? A kid like me got set in front of the school. I was put on a chair to sit down so all the students could taunt me and make fun of me. But I'm a street kid. I'm going to go one up on them. I decided to make it my stage. So all the kids like, hey, what's up? See how special I am? Only I get to see the principal. You don't. See, it's called survivorship. And that's what you have to do sometimes. You're going to get into classes, courses, professors, experiences in your life. And you got to be your number one cheerleader, folks. You got to believe that why you're here is because somebody else paid that debt for you already. And you can't go back because of some little thing that happened in this big thing called life. You have got to go past that grade that you say you may argue you didn't deserve. You got to get past that lecture you didn't understand. You got to get past whatever the whoever dumped you and told you were whatever. You know what? They don't define you. And most of all, they're not going to pay your bills. So let's get real. You've got to get past those storms. Well, I got past the big storm, my principal. You know, I love her. I think she's still around. But she did not know how to communicate, you know, and she started speaking phonetically. She started like this. What? Y dije, a la fregada, I'm learning the wrong English. Man, that's the way you speak English. I'll never get it. And she finally asked me, why didn't I like Connie? That Connie was less letters. And that's when the sense of who you are, you can never mortgage or put a for sale sign. It was with those tears in my eyes that I said to her at 6 years old, Mrs. Treviño, no me quite mi nombre, que es mi herencia. Please don't take my name. It is my heritage. Es quien soy yo. Y de dónde vengo, no lo puedo negar. It is who I am, and I am to never, never deny where I come from. And so today, I see a very diverse audience. But I can tell you that as a veteran, you learn very quickly when you're in somebody else's backyard. I see my brother here. Some may say he's white. What I see is he would have my back, and I would have his. And yet we are here talking about how different we are. But I guarantee you, we don't need a war to go in somebody else's backyard and have my brother and I, they only see one thing. You're American, and I'm an American. What we need to do is import peace. Be able to have these conversations. That the color of your skin, your gender, whatever, doesn't mean that I must impose my will upon you. But it is who you are as I give you my hand. And I kiss you. That you know I love you just the way you are. It is upon me to cross that line of trust and to ask of you, are you with me on this journey? And as students, we need more of that. We don't need to be divided. We don't need to create a sort of hysteria about how some people are more dangerous than others, because ugly comes in every form and shape, does it not? So let us start here today, this afternoon. Well, coming from my barrio, I made it to middle school. Aren't you impressed? I made it to middle school. That is so cool. You got to remember now, my village, no one graduated from high school. I would have been the first. So I'm in middle school. But I contracted a disease. I say that I'm still in recovery. My disease is that I fell in love with every vato every 30 minutes. My husband worries about whether or not I'm really cured or not. But what does that mean? Because as a young girl, with a mother that wasn't nurturing to me because of her illness, 10 children, you know, the streets called me. And all of these having to live in so many worlds and be true to all of them at the same time was heavy on my heart. So the only answer and way for me to diffuse it was through violence. I began to fight. I got arrested. And it was there in middle school that I see so many young people today that I've served. It's no longer high school dropout. It's now middle school dropout. And in many communities, it's elementary dropout. And so I'm asking you today, you don't have to have all the money and all the time and all the power to live a legacy. What you need is to care just a little bit more for someone. And that someone could actually, in the circle of life, come back in your life, like Arlene has, and her legacy. But in middle school, that was my language. That is why I work with children that are incarcerated. That is why I devote my life with the toughest kids in the world, because I am that kid. So misunderstood, and yet I think the most dangerous word in the English vocabulary is the word perception. Because once you lock into an image, it is hard to get away from what you think and what you feel towards someone else. So for me, middle school was tough. I didn't know that I was gifted. I didn't know, no one tested me. I had all the labels. But by some miracle, called social promotion, I went to high school. And things got really messed up there. Because now the village is expecting me. See, there was no success center in my life. Everyone started to question, will she finish the race? Will she be the first in her village to be a high school graduate? Well, how far do you think she's going to go? And then my culture, my village elders, who didn't believe that any girl should leave her village. Now I was torn between the loyalty for my village and what my barrio was expecting me to stay. What my mother used to define her sense of self was what I did, el que dirán. And now La Chelo wanted to fly. She wanted to go out and do things. And so the village was arguing and debating on my own destiny, and nobody asked me. How many of us have been through those experiences back home? And you know what you want to do, but the love for your family is, I don't want to disrespect them. I don't want to deny or turn my back on my village, but I know that the only way I can empower my village, the only way I can bring true freedom to my barrio is for me to be educated. And so I rose up against my elders, not knowing would I be cursed, not knowing would they ever let me back into their village. And that's why I say that my father taught me love. Because when my mother was faced with that decision, she would not support me. So I want to thank the teacher, because that's what coaching does. It puts you with just one person that can help crystallize what may look like a confusing world to you at the time, especially if you're a freshman. Mr. Cooper was this white dude who wore glasses, who had books under his arm, and he was in the 60s, having read about the war on poverty, decides to go all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. That's before GPS, folks. And he makes it to Laredo, Texas. And he's going to help these border kids who are borderline educated, functionally illiterate, and he's going to save us. And I'm like, yeah, right. And he comes into the barrio, and he's got these little glasses. And I'm sorry, Mr. Cooper, I love you, but I used to mess with him all the time. Because he used to see you like this. And one day, I was scheduling my fights. I'm an equal opportunity fighter. I was on my 10 o'clock one. I'm just being real with you, okay? Yeah, I know if you Google me, you read all the glamorous things I've done. I'm just being real. Can we be real? I'm in my 10 o'clock, and Mr. Cooper breaks up the fight. And he says this, Miss Castillo, why do you use this? You are brilliant. I didn't know he had been watching me. And I'm like, hey, Mr. Cooper, You've been doing that stuff, man? I thought he was high. And he spoke this amazing English. I do not need to toxify my body. Dije, a la fregada, no le entiendo ni jota. So I don't understand a thing he's saying. And then he said these words. Where do you live? I'm like, a la fregada. I said, me, sir? He said, yes, I'm a teacher. I'd like to meet your parents. Over there. He said, wonderful. I will go over there. So I went with him. I said, here comes the chancla. For sure. And he knocked on the door. If you see my beautiful mother, she looked very much like that on that day. And this is Mr. Cooper. Buenas tardes. Soy Señor Cooper. Soy maestro. And that's all my mother heard, was that he was a teacher. Now remember where they rank? Exactly. You know what I mean? My mother opened the door, started kissing him everywhere. And I said, Mommy, calm down. He's not the Pope. Don't go religious on us here. And my mother's kissing him and thanking him and crying. Because what's a teacher visiting him? La casa. And then my dad, this macho Mexican, comes around, sees my mom all into it with this white guy. And he's like, ¿Qué está pasando aquí? And then poor Mr. Cooper, he gets so nervous. He goes, oh, Señor Castillo, yo, maestro, quiero su hija. I said, no, wait, Mr. Cooper. He said, what did I say? I said, you said you were a teacher, but that you wanted me. And my father says, oh, está bien. You know? Yeah, okay. That's a good trade. She can go with a teacher. I said, what are you doing? You cannot give me away. But Mr. Cooper was this amazing individual who lived a legacy. He didn't let the confines of his classroom be the limits of his outreach. He did not allow the mindset that these little brown kids born in this poor little village, they're not going nowhere, as they would often tell him. He defied whatever perception or things that people said to him about us. He saw something so great and amazing when he saw that we built things out of nothing. Poverty, folks, is the most innovative laboratory of life. Resiliency comes from when you know that no one else is going to come and make it for you. I was not born with Toys R Us. It was toys I make. Little did I know that it would lead to my master's in cybernetics, that it would be the curiosity of my life of creating and building and making from nothing but an abstract idea, that the scientist I was to be later in her life knew that it originated in that backyard with sticks and stones and things that I would pick up along the way and build. Now they call it reverse engineering. And so Mr. Cooper tested me. And there came the next big blow in life. I was supposed to be special needs. A girl like me would never be admitted to any university anywhere in the world. But Mr. Cooper knew that the system had failed me, not just me, that I needed a mentor, I needed a coach. I needed a bridge builder. I needed a dream maker, and all I had ever faced were gatekeepers. They would use my scores, they would use my color, they would use my gender, they would use whatever they could to say, sorry, you can't be here. But not Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper challenged me to do what I needed to do, and that was to learn English. And so I went into an English lab, 12 hours a day. I would go home to my barrio, and my father would tell me he didn't have the money for electricity. So I would learn with a lamp, an oil lamp. My parents thought I should see a doctor because I would read instead of eating and drinking. They worried that my brain would explode. Se va a volver loca. She will be deranged. And they pleaded me not to read so much. And I pleaded to them that freedom was there in my fingertips. It was on pages. And all I had to do was discover them. So I'm asking you today, how curious are you? Or do you just believe what someone else says? I would say that even in your lectures, I challenge you to even dare to argue, for that history may not be as accurate as we think it is. There are many chapters left out in who all the Americans were and what they really did, like the immigrant who built the railroads. And the list goes on. And so I ask of you today, as the leaders who are going to change and shape the world, read, and then discover, and then question, even what you read. Well, I tested again. And Mr. Cooper, with those funny glasses, he said, Miss Castillo, I have news for you. I go, what's up? He said, not only are you special needs, you're above national average. You can go to any university in the world. And what's a girl from a little town who's never gone even across the street is going to go? I said, really, Mr. Cooper? He said, where do you want to go? I want to go where you went. He says, oh, God. I'm not sure they're ready for you. And so, Mr. Cooper, help me to be admitted to Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, Texas, where they talk just like that. And so I went there. Mi música, mi herencia, mi cultura, mis tradiciones, all that defined who I am at my heart, I would not hear for 6 years. No one asked me to go anywhere. Only one girl, a very wealthy girl, asked me to go to her home for spring break. I was so excited. And then her mother saw my color. And her words to her daughter is, she might take something. It's best that she doesn't come. It is there that my beautiful college mate questioned her mother. Why hate? She's my best friend. She lends me her clothes. I don't know why she liked my clothes. Why do you see hate, Mother? Consuelo always waits for me. And that was the beginning of conversations around our human behavior, which is why I developed this human development company. But without the blame game that so often we play, or the victim game, but rather the empowerment. Let us rise above our own experiences, and let us not just be victims or survivors. Let us be what I believe every human being has the potential to do, and that's to become a role model. And that means you must live without the shame of what ever happened to you and what you had to go through. I've been through every imaginable abuse given to mankind or people kind. I've been subjected to what people wouldn't even comprehend. But I'm standing before you because I'm just not what my story wanted it to be. I'm the story changer. I'm a spiritual woman. I'm not overly religious, but I know there's something greater in me that I cannot control, and so I rely on my spirit. I pray, and I know that whatever it is that you believe in, I respect that too. But somewhere along the way, when you've been beaten down, you got to rise up to believe there's something greater than you that will pick you up. You've got to believe that tomorrow will get better. In one of the most brutal beatings of my life, as the blood ran through the back of my legs and my back, and the scars that I still have, I learned one thing about hope. I ran to the chicken coop. I thought I was no better than the chickens, who I found defenseless. But there in that night, with my blood running, my pain, my suffering, I realized one thing. The chickens were caged. I wasn't. I chose to be free, even from what was going on externally. I chose to decide what I would become, even if others tried to beat it into me. The chickens were the most defenseless in that night. I made sure I gave them extra water. And I walked out of that chicken coop, never again to settle for so little, nor to think so small of myself. Some of you in this room want to adapt, want to assimilate, want to be in. You don't need to do any of those things. Just be you. And if those who want you to be different, that's their problem, not yours. And don't own it. Because if you do, it'll mess with your head. To be an American is to be all of these things. Well, in college, I was alone, except for one man who laid out a blanket in front of a table. It said United States Army. And he stood perfectly at attention. And he said this to me, "Cadet, do you want to be in my army?" Man, I immediately signed. He sounded just like my mother. I had no clue what I was about to do. I signed up. When I showed up for formation, there were 400 men. I'm the only 19-year-old girl. That's a Kodak moment. But there began a new adventure. According to this sergeant, if I was to endure, if I was to meet the requirements, I would make history in Texas as the first woman ever commissioned in ROTC. Once again, the voices in the back that mess with you, right? What are you doing? That's loca. You don't have what it takes. But I knew that where I came from is what my spirit said. Rise above it. Honor your parents. Honor your village. Bring equity and bring dignity. And so I remember one day the sergeant tried to break my spirit. He took me on a 7-mile run. And about 4 miles, he started to have difficulty breathing himself. But he tried to mess with my psyche. And he yelled in my ear, like if I couldn't hear. And he would say, "Cadet Castillo, give it up now!" And I kept running and running. And at the end of 7 miles, he barely is breathing. He says, "Why are you still with me?" I said, "Look, Bato, I don't know what your problem is, but back in my barrio, we have been running our whole lives." You see, it's called spirit. It's called ganas. It is what you're made of. Even when you doubt yourself, man, just stretch a little more. You'll surprise even yourself. Well, I finished that horrible run, and I finished all of what they said, and the last assignment was to march 20 miles in my combat boots with 35 pounds on my back. And yes, once again the blood came, but it was for good. It was to meet all of their requirements. And that night, that sergeant walked into my dorm room, and he saluted me. And he said, "Lieutenant Castillo, tomorrow you will make history. But answer me a question. Why? You see, that's the last image I want to show you on the computer, if you don't mind. It's about a vision. Are you visionary yourself? Are you looking at where you want to go, where you're going to be? Why do you want to be? I hope that you take time as you're studying and developing, that you ask yourself, what do I deserve? Be careful with the words, what do I want or what do I wish? To me, those words mean you're still asking for permission. So ask yourself, what do I deserve? And if you know you need to work on some grades, you need to work on some lab work, then you need to then stretch yourself. Because this nation deserves the best you have to offer. And you may think, oh, it doesn't matter what I do. You betcha. Everything you do has a direct impact on me and everyone else. So I'm asking you today, raise your hand. How many of you know that you could make better grades? This is for real. Okay, it's on video. Okay, I'm not going to send it to your parents. But having heard my story, how many of you feel inspired to do just a little better for humanity? Thank you. Because that social worker you're going to be is going to look at the foster child like I look at foster children. Burned over 100 places in their bodies. Having moved 26 times. Not having anyone to call home. You, the engineer, building the robotics that will discover perhaps the next cure. You, the microbiologist, that will look at the conditions of the DNA. And everyone in here in this room, be the best. Because to me, you are the best. The question is, do you believe it for yourself? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I took my right hand and I chose to defend my Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic, that I would bear true allegiance to my great country, even if my country chose not to love my father or my mother, for the simple fact that they were immigrants. That I knew that hate was something I see, not in a movie, but that I lived it. As my mother and my father depended on me to read for them, to translate for them. And yet I knew from discernment, how do you translate hate when a doctor is telling your mother that she's like an animal, not to have so many damn kids. And yet I knew better than to translate to my mother, dice el médico que se cuide más. It is upon you, the next generation, to bring courageous love and be intentional and purposeful. Money and fame and all the other things that are worldly, I promise you, they will come to your feet. You will earn the money. You will have the prestige by being courageously and being love to others. Well, I had it all. My goals were small when I was a college graduate. I wanted a car that didn't move. How many of you are hoping for that one? Okay, I wanted a house made of brick like in the Little Pigs. And I accepted every credit card that spelled my name right. Well, that's not the way to live a whole life, folks. I went after it, I got it, and I got more than I even deserved. But it was in 1987, as I begin to close this story, of why it's important to live a legacy. I always thought of my village and my barrio as in an afterthought. Cuando ya, termine mis estudios, when I finish my studies. Cuando le ayude a mis padres, after I help my parents. I always put this priority list before my community. And in 1987, I was at San Jose State University getting my master's in cybernetics. That's artificial intelligence robotics. That's not chironetics. That's freezing dead people. And there my mommy comes, right? And if you know a Mexican mother, like I know many Mexican mothers, you know, they come and they take over. And my mother comes, she goes, "Mija." I go, "Yes, ma'am, I know you're going to take over." She said, "Yo ya me voy a morir." You know, she was going to die. I go, "Mother, you die on Thursdays, not on Tuesdays." You know, today is Tuesday. You still got 2 more days to live. And she said, "No, mija, yo ya me voy." And I realized what it is to be a woman in spirit and in love with her God. My mother loved God in her way that she sensed when it was her day. But she challenged me on that day to think about my community. That how much longer was I going to wait to go home? What more did I want or need or deserve, perhaps, before I made a difference, to live a legacy? My mother left San Jose, California, and she died 2 weeks later. And so there it was, brewing and stewing in my unconsciousness, aching for what I had promised her I would, and still wanting to provide for my children. That is why I'm telling you that in the pursuit of success, the money, the fame, whatever it is that you feel that you want, will come as you are purposeful. Ladies and gentlemen, I had it all. Did I want more? I got the call. I was to become a battalion commander. And at that moment, I gave it all up. Much to the shock of the world, a Latina breaking records, being in the magazines, what in the world was she going to do next? Well, for 22 years, that is my life. I have a very small company. I don't travel with an entourage. My greatest moments are to sit in a migrant camp and eat tamales with the most neglected, underserved, unappreciated communities of our nation. Whether it's a plantation with my African American brothers, in places like South Carolina, where they are still indentured to the plantation owner, now in its 6th generation. Or whether it is my Sudanese and my African brothers and sisters, having seen genocide, and now they're in New York City trying to survive, not knowing whether or not they'll make it. It is there that I devote my life. It is in these wonderful places where some people say, "Aren't you afraid?" If you're with your spirit, there's nothing to fear, but fear yourself. It is there that I work with children in barrios who tell me that their teachers won't listen to them, that they get neglected, they don't get properly educated because they don't speak the language. It is there that I believe that by telling this humble story, that maybe that child will someday hold on to hope. And many of these children now are in their 30s, like Arlene. And I know them. Seeing them now, like Maricel, I believe I've lived a life of no regret. I still get to pay the bills, and I still love my tacos, and I don't like fancy restaurants because I don't believe I should pay $300 for 4 anorexic-looking shrimp. I don't want, that's just me. I donate 40% of what I earn. I still love thrift stores. I just went to one 48 hours ago. Because one must always remain that all that we can have can go away. So I leave you with this thought. There was a billionairess who taught me the greatest lesson when she said that she had just had the Dalai Lama, that in her 18-room mansion, she wondered, and that why did people say she had sad eyes? She asked me what was it that she was missing. And I looked in her eyes and I said, what you're missing is that you're not looking inside. You're looking for it somewhere else. It is in you. It is in who you are and what you can do for others. It is in taking your shoes off. I questioned if she had ever dared to jump in a puddle. She said, oh, my nanny. I said, she's not here. And so she took off her shoes, and we got into the biggest puddle we ever had. And she laughed and she cried, and she said, is this what it means? I said, be aware that the little girl in you never got to be. So stop searching. It's in you. Be that girl again. And most of all, love others because you can do more with what you have. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I believe I'm going to the migrant camps of Washington State next, and that's where you'll find me, and then somewhere else. But thank you, God bless you, and take care of this great nation, because we veterans will defend it till the bitter end. It's worth it. Thank you.
Consuelo can take about 5-10 minutes of questions, and then
Yeah.
we're going to have a book signing and reception.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I always forget I have a book. Okay, so who's the first daring person? It doesn't have to be a question. It could just be a comment that you say, you know what, I needed to hear that. Or so raise your hand. Don't everybody raise your hand at the same time? Please, thank you. Tell me your name and...
I'm Lincoln Augustine. Hi. I just want to ask you, because you say at first you didn't know how to read and you were struggled to read. And me as an immigrant coming from Haiti, that's the thing I'm struggling with right now in school, like improving my English, and I struggle to improve my grade. So it's like, what motivated you exactly to do all that reading that you were doing, and what did you do about it to improve, like, in those like vocabulary and everything else to get you to the level that you got?
I have the secret. Buy you a little recorder. And that's what I did. Number 2, always sit in front of your classes, because distance can affect what you hear. Number 3, be honest and transparent with your professor and say, look, I'm not asking for pity, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just asking for you to help me. Then here's the 4th thing, time management. While everybody in my college was dating or whatever they were doing, I was taking every word and looking it up in the dictionary. As you get more proficient, you need to look for less. Then I began to make up stories, and my professors would grade them extra to my classwork. Sometimes they would throw it back to me 4 times. I had to not take it personal. I couldn't take it personal because they were helping me with my development. That's what got me in 1 year to make a significant change. But I gave up all the other things that perhaps other young people could do. But for me, this was my investment, not just in me, but in my community, in Haiti. Haiti will always be in you. So someday, go back to Haiti and free Haiti. Did I help you? You're welcome. Someone else. Why are you so quiet? ¿Qué les pasa? Calabaza. Okay, thank you. Finally, yes. Yes.
So you said that you joined the ROTC when you were 19. Did you delay your education to do so, and then how did you? Are you continued schooling with that? Okay, so how did you make the decision to just join? I know you said that there was someone there who kind of encouraged you, but was it a difficult decision for you, or was it just something you instantly felt connected to?
That's a great question. Well, the reason that I really wanted to join the military is because my father wanted to be an American citizen. And he could never, he had 12-hour jobs, making $1 an hour. So he couldn't get to pass the citizenship exam. So we realized that that's what he wanted. He wanted a little flag. And one day, all my brothers, there's 10 of us, got together. And my brother says, my oldest brother says, Orale, all he wants is a flag. And we're like, okay. And he said, we're all going to buy it for him, right? So we thought we were going to buy it for my dad. My dad overhears us. He gets really angry and offended. He goes, nadie me compra una bandera. And then we all turned to my brother and said it was his idea. That's the way it is in the village, But what my father said later that night was these words. He said, este no es mi país porque no pudo ser. This could not be my country, but it is yours. If you cannot give to your country, don't you dare take from it. And if the only flag I will ever hold is because you or all of my children were willing to die for your country. So of my 10 brothers and sisters, 8 of us are veterans. So when my turn came and that sergeant acted like my mother, there was no negotiation. So I graduated with a double minor, graduated the same day as the West Point girls did. That's why we have the same historical date as being the first. And that's the way the Army wanted it, wanted one commissioning date. And that was the beginning of my 20-year career. Just a quick, cute story about looking for things that you want, right? I'm going to get paid. My father made $1 an hour, my mother $35 a week. And the guy is starting to give me $50 bills. And I'm like, órale, they make them? And it was $700. This is back in 1970, who cares? And I send the money home. And my mother gets the money order. She sees that it's $700, and she goes nuts. She goes, Pedro, look at all this money. Consuelo is selling drugs. So, that's where you have to teach the village not to succumb to that quick solution. But it takes you to go home. It takes you to go back and give knowledge so that you can free minds. Because when you're not educated about anything, you're like a caged animal. And even in a democratic nation, you are still caged. And education is the most concrete form of democracy. It is the game changer. It is the leverage maker. So you are here today to change the landscape of your community. So make it happen. No excuses. Fair enough? Thank you. One more question or comment? How many of you feel that this conversation was helpful for you at the spirit level? It was. Okay, let me pick on one of you. Thank you. Thank you, mija. Here you go.
Yeah, so my question is, how did you decide what you wanted to study in college, and are you working in that right now?
Oh, that's a great, I like those questions. Let me give you what the best secret, and you're in the best university to do it. is do an internship. If you can't, if you can't do the internship, go and knock on whatever you think you love and volunteer. Do it while you're still a student. Here's the thing the Department of Labor says. 7 out of 10 people do not love what they do. I see them on the highway every single day, especially in LA. So, do an internship, go volunteer, get soaked in that, whatever it is, and then tell yourself, can I live with this the rest of my life? I wanted to be a law enforcement officer, and I wanted to catch every drug dealer because they killed my friends. That didn't end up being what I became. Somehow the Army tested my brain. They said that I have dual brain dominance. Don't ask me what that is. And I worked in some interesting jobs. Just leave it at that. That's when I realized that had I done an internship, had I volunteered, maybe that would not have been my choice. Today, as an activist and a leadership development person, helping my community to empower themselves, man, I am where I am the happiest with anybody who believes that I can serve them. Whether it's the hollers of Kentucky, it doesn't matter. Poverty doesn't come with color, folks, okay? You got to be willing to cross the lines and love people. And for me, whether it's the hollers of Kentucky or East LA, I'm where I want to be, or a migrant camp, okay? That makes me whole. Sometimes I get paid, sometimes I don't. It doesn't matter. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So I was going to pick on you. Yes, you. You said that something I said inspired you. What was that?
I think a lot of it is that I'm a first-generation high school graduate as well, from Appalachia. And one thing, so the hollers of Kentucky, but except I'm Tennessean.
You been in Knott County?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was at.
Really?
Yes. I've been in Knott County, Kentucky, like you. That's awesome.
The thing that I struggle with is not only am I the first to graduate high school and college and now being a master's degree working with the women of the university, but I'm the only. And so as my sisters are getting older, I'm seeing that they are not graduating. And I struggle a lot with guilt that I'm having these successes and I couldn't bring it to my community yet. So I hear that your siblings, 8 of 10 of them, are in the military, but how did you get through your success without feeling guilty?
One of the things that I did, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because you measure yourself by the greater good of your community or your tribe. What I did do was that I went to them and I challenged them. Let me give you an example, very quick, and I think I need to go. My brother comes up to me and he says, I'm not making any money. And I said, really? Okay. I said, what's your problem? He said, well, I'm an EMT. I said, well, who's making the money? The nurse making the money. I said, okay, and what's your problem? He said, I do all the work. I said, so why can't you be a nurse? He said, I don't know how. I said, I'm going to take you. I'm going to show you. He became a nurse in 2 years. Okay? That changed the whole, but I had to challenge him. That's what you can do. Sometimes you got to challenge those that you love and make them uncomfortable. And did everybody agree with that? And say, you know what? It's not because I'm picking on you because I'm the, So one of my other sisters was like, oh, you think you're fufu because you went to college. And I said, no. You know what I'm talking about, I said, no, don't even go there. I said, because you're brilliant. She became a psychiatric nurse. So you are the pathfinder. And you're not going to get them all to come to this side, but man, you can mess with them. Because you're the one that knows. So use your knowledge not to overpower, but to empower. And that's the difference. Now, the reason I picked on you is because wherever I go, I give something of my personal jewelry that will stay with you forever. So you hold on to that. I've been to Knott County, Kentucky. And there's some really nice folks there. And you and I were forever linked. So go change the world.
There's just so many different things we could say about you, and I'm going to hold back, but Kevin and Shandine, we have a very special gift, and again, we're going to stay for the book signing and a reception, but we have a very special gift with a very special presenter. Shandine is one of our coaches, and she has something she wants to say to you and give to you.
Okay, so I just wanted to introduce myself real quick. So yat e shik is doja dene. She e total koja nishlin do kia ani bushes chin oze touching dashtero tabahan dashanale. She e shani sit geneshia. Hola, me llamo Shandine Yusuf. Estoy Navajo. Okay, so yeah, the First Year Success reached out to me to bestow this gift to you. I just wanted to appreciate you for coming. I apologize for not being able to come here for the event. I was attending class, but I ran over here to present a drawing for you that hopefully you'll able to keep with you that explains your journey that you went through and the resilience that you've had. So. Right there in the corner.
We gotta take a picture.
Okay.
I knew that you out there because I've been blessed to work with my Navajo brothers in New Mexico. Yes, in Farmington, New Mexico.
That's where I'm from, around that area.
You're from that area? Round,
Shiprock.
Shiprock, I know. I've been to Shiprock. Yeah. And one of my good young ladies is the Navajo Queen this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so she had to learn how to make fire.
Yeah.
And do, all those things? Look at you. Yeah, I honor your community. I honor our people. And I honor you. It shall hold a sacred place in my home.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Consuelo. It has been our honor to host you, and we are so grateful for you to teaching us how to live a legacy today. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause, please, for Consuelo? Before we transition to our next portion, I also want to take a moment to thank some of our co-sponsors for today, Gear Up Arizona, as well as Women's History Month Planning Committee, and Student and Cultural Engagement. Thank you so much for supporting this event that would not have been possible without you.